That's it, the silent horror is approaching.
My name is Alex. I work from home. Laptop, coffee, headphones, and my greatest luxury, silence. When I moved into an old but cozy apartment on the outskirts, I thought I'd found the perfect place. An elderly couple upstairs, a quiet student downstairs, and barely a sound in the house except for the occasional footstep in the hallway. A month later, everything changed. A new neighbor moved in, and he broke my only rule: no noise. At first, it was single, dull knocks. Once a day, at different times, sometimes at midday, sometimes late at night. They weren't like creaking furniture or footsteps. They were heavy, dull thuds, like someone dropping something heavy. I started keeping a diary. Tuesday, 2:17 p.m., Wednesday, 9:03 a.m., Thursday, 7:41 p.m. There was no pattern, just one knock and then absolute silence. At first, I thought about renovations, about clumsy neighbors, but after a week, I realized someone was playing some kind of game with me. I went up to my neighbor's room. The door was opened by a man of about 40, neatly dressed, with an empty, calm gaze. A smile didn't reach his eyes. I told him I heard a noise from upstairs. He politely replied that he lived alone and valued silence, and suggested that the sound might be coming from another floor. He was convincing, and I left, embarrassed and guilty. For 2 days, an almost blessed silence reigned. I sighed with relief. But on the third night, I was awakened by whispers. The whispers weren't coming from above or below. They were coming from the wall behind my bed. At first, they were individual words, then phrases, but it was impossible to make them out. The voices merged into a whisper that seemed aimed directly at my ear. I'd knock on the wall. The whispers would die down for a couple of hours, then return with renewed vigor. Attempts to record the sound on my phone resulted in only white noise. I went to my neighbor's again. This time, he didn't open the door right away. I heard quick, muffled voices behind it, as if he were talking to someone. When the door finally opened, his apartment was dark and empty. He told me that in old houses, the walls hold memories, sounds, conversations, knocks. The walls repeat what they've heard, he said quietly, and there was no mockery in his voice, only a strange calm. You just have to learn not to hear. I returned home and didn't sleep for 2 days. The whispers grew louder. Now I could distinguish 3 voices: a man's, a woman's, and a child's. They weren't speaking to each other. They were commenting on my actions, whispering about things I hadn't done and places I'd never been. I came across an old thread on a local forum. 3 years ago, a family, a husband, wife, and child, was found murdered in the apartment above mine. They had been reclusive. The neighbors complained of a strange silence and smell. When they broke down the door, all 3 were dead, and the living room walls were scratched, as if someone had desperately tried to escape. My blood ran cold. At that moment, I heard a rhythmic scraping sound on the wall, like someone typing a message with fingernails. I ran out into the hallway and saw my neighbor standing by the stairs, facing the wall. His face was contorted with horror, but his voice remained calm. He confirmed that the walls absorbed sounds, and sometimes even souls. They haven't gone anywhere, he said. They've become part of the house. They need silence to be heard. They chose you because you love silence. For the first time, his eyes reflected emotion, Not anger, not joy, but almost pity. I returned to the apartment and turned off everything: the phone, the internet, the lights. In the silence, the whispers grew clearer. They told stories from the walls, from the pipes, from the dark corners of the apartment. Stories of fear, of hunger, of the family's last day upstairs. I adopted a new rule: complete silence. Now I listen. And if someone breaks this rule, who knows, maybe the walls will want to talk to you too.